We're now listening to Wealthy Sistas Radio Show. We're now listening to Wealthy Sistas with Deborah Hartnett.
Welcome back. You are now listening to part 2 of episode Get Out There and Get Known, PR Power Moves with Dr. Pam Perry. Enjoy.
That's your expertise. You know that better than anybody. Lead with that. Don't lead with, just the flashy, no shade to my daughter. She's so cute, but she does these things where she just sits in the bed and she talks on TikTok and just says like things on, and it's so interesting to her friends.
To her
friends. And it has really nothing that is, she doesn't, I'm about 40 years older than her, right? So it's just kind of like, there is a period of time where I'm going to know more stuff than her because I've just been on this planet longer. So you start where you start and just lead with your best asset and know that you have something to offer. And everybody does. Everybody.
Great. That's great. You know what? In the reverse of that I share a lot of time with the young people is that, we all, when we were young, I know I used to think I knew some things. Like I learned now, I don't know anything. I thought I knew. I don't know anything.
I do too.
That's what I know for sure. But, it was listening to parents and I might have thought, okay, well, mama might not really know or, you know what I'm saying. But the problem is, the information, the internet provides information right there. And it's a false sense of you knowing something because you can look it up. But just what you said, and I heard this lady say this and I told her I was going to borrow it and I give her credit. You cannot Google experience.
That's right.
Just what you said. You've got the experience. I mean, if nothing else, we've lived this long. So you know how to iron some pants. You know that the way when you're cooking, this is just the right amount that you need to put on there. You don't have to measure it out. You don't have to follow a recipe. You know it. You've done it so many times.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband and I talk about it. We used to sit at the feet. Like we have no pay for internships. Like we did internships with no money. We were just hungry to be around that seasoned professional who's our age now, just to learn from them. And this has kind of robbed that generation. This technology, I think, has robbed that generation of that benefit of appreciating the value and the experience that our generation has had that can help them.
That's
right.
True. I always say some things are taught and some things are caught. And they're only caught if you are around that person.
Right.
So my mentors are now 80-ish or so, 85-ish. And I still talk to them and I'm around them. I still learn from them. Some things are taught and some things are caught. And you can only catch them if you're around with them, if you're interning with them, apprentice with them, taking them to dinner. Just, those are the things that really are caught and you learn it from over time of being around that person. So Google was not a thing. I had my daughter say to me, she says, well, Mom, I know, I Google it. I was like, oh, okay. All right. I lived it. So you can Google it, but I lived it. Okay. How about that? So
Right. Exactly. And I guess when I was thinking the reverse of that, speaking to our generation who, again, back to the point, who feel like, oh, I got to package myself like Instagram, like the youth on. No. That's not a market that we can cater to. That's not. We don't have to cater to.
Yes.
It's a whole market, like you said earlier. We're living longer. People are living longer, and they need advice. They're starting new careers, and again, it's our golden years.
Yes. And they call it encore careers. So if you're at an age where you've been in a job for 30 years and you want to quote unquote retire and do something else. You're still young and vital, but you have something else that you wanted to do. You always wanted to do. So at
Mhm.
that point, you would hire maybe a business coach, a PR coach, maybe a branding coach, those kind of things to help you in the next phase of what they call the encore career. And,
Mhm.
Mary Kay, I think she started her Mary Kay business. I think she was in her 50s.
Right. And
And
Colonel Sanders
Colonel
was
Sanders,
60. In the
definitely. So he definitely had an encore career. I mean, like multi-million-dollar career. So you just need guidance in order to do that. When you work with the PR coach, they will show you how to get the lowest hanging fruit media that you need to start. It's like a snowball that those are in the winter time. You take a snowball and you roll it and roll it and it gets bigger and bigger as you push it along. So you want to start small, but it'll grow into something bigger. Eventually you'll get into the larger publications or the larger TV networks, but you want to start really small to practice this, and you wrap your head around seeing yourself in print or seeing or hearing yourself on a podcast, because a lot of times a lot of times my clients, they will go on a podcast and I say, did you listen to it? Oh, I couldn't listen to it. No, you need to listen to yourself so you
Right.
can get better.
Right.
A lot of people don't like their voice. I said,
Yeah,
no,
your voice.
listen to it so you hear how you sound. How
Mhm.
many did you do?
Mhm.
How many bridges did you not tell the complete story? I mean, you need to study yourself on the media that you have along the way so that eventually you can sit on Super Soul Sunday with Oprah and feel good about it because you've practiced and you've listened and you've improved. But if you just go on a whole bunch of podcasts and never critique your own podcast, you're going to be in trouble because you will never get better because you're not listening. So yeah, I always tell them to do that, and most people hate that, or even read their stories. It's like, oh, I was interviewed, but I didn't like how I said that. I said, well, that's what the journalist heard, so you
Mhm.
have to remember your talking points when you're talking to a journalist. So yeah, so a lot of the PR coaching things. If you've worked in the job for 30 years, you're not going to know certain things, and just know I need a business coach, I need a branding coach, I need a PR coach, I need someone to help me with my website. Don't do it yourself.
Mhm.
That's just the slow way to do things. Get a coach
Mhm.
that will help, cut down your learning curve and you can go much
Eliminated.
faster.
Exactly, exactly. What did we used to say? Collapse the time frames. That's
Yes.
what we want to
Yes.
do. And I'm glad you're talking about the PR and marketing. And can you tell us what? Because these words are used interchangeably now today. What's the difference between marketing,
Yes.
PR,
That
and
is
brand?
that's so good you asked that, Deborah, because one of the things that people think that if they get PR, that it's going to create sales for them.
Right.
And marketing will create sales because that's a direct pitch and that is what you're really making the offer. So if you were on a TV segment and you were saying, well, I've got this book and the book is 1999, da, 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 that's marketing. That's not PR. PR really tells a story. PR gives the awareness. And I call it the formula of the AIDA. Is awareness is first, get people interested, getting them desiring it, and then wanting to take action. So the first two, the A and the I, the awareness and getting people interest, is really PR. Those are the
Mhm.
stories, those are the newspaper articles, those are the things that people are seeing that says, "Hey, yeah, okay, I'm interested in that." And then desiring it is that one piece like, "Ooh, well, I really want more about that." And so maybe from hearing about you being interested, and then maybe they see an ad, maybe they see a billboard, maybe they see a email, because that's marketing, email marketing,
Mhm.
where there's doing an ask, and then the action is that they buy. So
Wow.
marketing is really, it's overall is the whole thing that a business needs in terms of getting sales, but PR are the first steps of the marketing process.
Love it.
It's a spoke in the wheel. So you
Mhm.
need it. You can't just go straight out in marketing without anyone being having an affinity for you, having interest or awareness. So
Mhm.
PR, public relations, gets people to really have an affinity for your brand, whereas marketing is more like a direct ask. When people are launching a book, for instance. Sometimes they feel so like, I'm launching a book, and they'll just put their Amazon link out there over and over again. Buy my book, buy my book, buy my book. And it's like, you know what? I don't know nothing about you in that book. Stop it. And
Right.
so the PR part of it will soften that sale and make the sales come. So you'll maybe do some podcasts where you talk a little, you're adding more value, you're telling your story, you're getting in the media outlets that are sharing your story. They're not selling it, but they're sharing your story. And then when they see buy my book, they have heard the radio, they've heard the podcast, they saw the online article, and now I'll buy it versus like just coming straight out, buy my book. It's like, what is the context? So
Right.
give me something of value first, then you can ask for the sale. Those are the two.
And so what would you say the branding piece is
The
there?
branding really makes you more attractive so that people will pay attention. So like you were saying, packaging is everything. So if I am a journalist and I say, well, great, I'd love to run your story. Send me your photos. Send me your assets. So these are the things that will make you more sellable to the media outlet. So a lot of times people say, I want PR, I want PR. I said, well, before we get PR, we need these type of branding assets so that you look the part. So you don't send me a a selfie on your cell phone. I need a professional photo. And that just speaks to, you have a website and you have a branded email that looks professional. So the branding part really is part of the positioning you so that you are what you say you are. The PR tells your story, but I need to see some kind of good assets about what it is that you do. And that's where the brand comes from. Like, this, I'm showing a picture right now of a couple of clients, a couple of men, and they have on a nice suit, tie, nice professional photo. Now, if he had on like a regular t-shirt, hat backwards or whatever, I wouldn't take him the same as someone who is a real estate wealth creator, right? If you're a real estate wealth creator, you've got to look the part. So the brand,
Everybody has a uniform.
it really is.
A rapper, then that's something different.
Right. And branding is, from the big corporation, whether it's a Coca-Cola or a Delta, it's a consistent look that I know this is the packaging that I'm going to get because I see that logo or I see Starbucks logo, McDonald's logo. I know that if I go in that particular organization, this is the brand promise that they're going to provide for me because it's in my mind, because it's been presented to me over and over again. So if I see a Delta logo, I have a certain feeling about it. If I see a Starbucks green with the little starfish thing, whatever it is mermaid, then I know what I'm going to get no matter where I go. If I'm in Ohio, Atlanta, or Michigan, it's like I go in there and I'm going to feel a sense of, now, if there's a coffee shop, I never heard of it, and I'm walking into it, I don't know what I'm going to get. But if you have a brand, you're building something that people will come to expect. They will come to look forward to that. You're providing a brand promise for them. So that part really is the first step. That is the first step before any of the things. You have to build that brand. You have to build that trust and get people to understand who you are and what you represent. And that's from logos, it's from colors. It's a whole psychology of it. You know that. It's a whole psychology of building a brand. So when I first started, my logo was blue and I had what they call a North Star in my logo in Ministry Marketing Solutions. So blue is a color of trust. And then that North Star was like what I was trying to provide for my clients. And then it became Pam Perry PR, which is really more my personality. I use the hot pink, I use the stars, but it was more like, branding superstar kind of thing. You want to be a star on the air. So it changed a little bit based on the reiteration of over the 25 years. But colors were important. What the symbols I use were important because then people will see it and know, oh, okay. Even before you speak, they kind of know a little bit about what it is. Speakers Magazine is just that. It doesn't say Speakers Magazine. It just says speakers. So it's just that. And it's trademark. It's speakers because I represent speakers. So yeah, the branding comes first and then you build out all the other parts of your business. And that's what I always tell people to do that first, because you can't get PR unless you have a brand. Bottom
Right. Right. I love that. And you kind of mentioned, how a person, what they need to do, the baby steps. They need to take baby steps, get on
Mhm.
podcasts. You suggest,
Mhm.
get into some of the check out some of the Black publications
Mhm.
if you're African American from that perspective.
Mhm.
What else would you suggest
Writing
for
articles.
business
Writing.
owners?
Mhm.
Oh, writing
Writing
articles.
articles. So depending on what industry, yeah, depending
Mhm,
on what industry, every industry has an association. They probably have a newsletter. They probably have a
mhm,
magazine. They probably
mhm,
have a website. And so let's just say you're an educational leader. There's EduTech, where maybe you can pitch them and say, I'd like to write an article. Now, they may or may not pay you, but if they don't pay you, what you really want them to say is like, well, can I make sure at the end of the article that you put my website? And that's how they're paying you. So I
mhm,
always say find your trade journals, become
mhm.
well known in those trade journals, and
Okay.
write, because that's what they call thought leadership. If you want
Mhm,
to, they have little councils as well, Deborah, where you can be a Forbes contributor. You can be an
mhm,
entrepreneur.com contributor, Forbes.com contributor, meaning that you can write for these publications under their tutelage for, so like, I think it's like $5,000 a year. And a lot of
mhm.
people's like, really? That, yeah, I said, yeah, they give you guidelines, and you can't it just can't be straight out marketing. It does have to sound like a real editorial story, but you can
Right.
write for those publications, and that gives you a little bit more of a PR positioning as well. So you can, writing articles really just shows people who you are, what your processes are. You're a thought leader. You are a leader in the field. So writing articles, and if you can, do your own podcast. Of course, we
Mhm.
believe in that. Own it yourself. But the thing of it is that, and you're really good at this. You've been doing your podcast for a long time, but most people only do 7 episodes and they abandon it. So the average podcast is only 7 episodes. And so if you're going to do it, commit to it and do it every week. I am
Mhm.
on episode, I think, almost 150 on Get Out There, Get Known podcast. And our speakers magazine, I do speakers that are on the cover. So I have a lot of those as well. So speakersmagazine.com, there's a podcast there, and then Get Out There, Get Known. But I've been podcasting for a long time. My first podcast was Chocolate Pages, and that was a book so good you can eat them. So I interviewed authors. And before Blog Talk went away, I probably had, I don't know, 300 or 400 podcasts
Right.
on that particular platform. So, but I did not own it. So that was the key of when I realized I needed to own my own podcast RSS feed. But yeah, the main thing is that people, when they're taking baby steps with the media, to understand where their audience is, what they're reading, even if it's the local newspaper or it's the local radio stations, and start there. Start in your smaller area, regional, and then national. Online is a whole nother piece, but I always tell people to make sure that you know your trade publications. What is your industry? And make sure, if you're a wellness coach, then sometimes you can go into a health food store and you'll see those magazines that are there in the health food store. They're free. You can write for those. Take those home, write the
Mhm.
editor, pitch them a story idea, and write for them. So now you're in that particular
Right.
publication in the health food store. I can't think of the name. I
Mhm.
want to say it's Alive, and they're different ones, but you want to make sure that you're, and their circulation is like hundreds of thousands. So
Mhm. Mhm.
there's that. And then the other thing that I always tell, while you're waiting for your business to really blow up and all that, write a book, write a signature book. And if you've started a business, your answer to someone's problem. So your book can be really that, in explaining your process, how you solve a problem. So I always tell people to write a book, write a signature book. It doesn't have to be a memoir. Nobody really cares about your story. Most people, when they're reading a book, if they're reading a nonfiction book, they're looking for a way that can solve their problem. Yes, you
And
can
improve
weave
the
it.
process.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, and you can weave in your story, but no one really cares about your story. unless it helps them in some way. So yeah, that's the thing. And I help people kind of like map out their books because you want the book to sell. So that's one of the main things. So having a book is really important. And then once you have a book, you can actually take parts of that and make those articles as well in the trade publications. So
Wow, we are here on Wealthy Sistas Radio with none other than the PR guru herself, Dr. Pam Perry. She's dropping some key nuggets. I hope you press rewind. I'm there. Rewind, right? Go back so that you can hear these nuggets that she's talking about. And we just, have a few moments left, but I would ask you right now, please, we have to have you back on.
yes,
Um,
I would love to. I would love
forward.
to.
But before we go, we have to talk. You've mentioned it. I see that beautiful cover there of the Speakers Magazine. Can you talk more about the role of your magazine in helping thought leaders get exposure? Because we're telling them they need to write, they need to look at publications. But if they're speakers, which we know that if you're in a business and you talk to them about being an expert, writing their book, you're putting your voice out there,
Yeah.
what better way than to be a part of this
Speakers
magazine?
Yes. So the Speakers Magazine started about 8 years ago, and it was out of the fact that I want to promote my speakers the same way Chocolate Pages, I wanted to promote my authors, right? So it was the same thing, but only in print. And so if you're on the cover, you typically have an event, and these magazines are printed and they're distributed at your event. You have a center spread story that talks about you. So people who don't come to your event, so maybe you only have 100 people at your event, but now you have a magazine that is really with the cover on it. People know a little bit more about you. You're having an event, maybe they'll have you come to their event in a, whatever. And then in between are what we call basically like little speaker one sheets of the speakers with inside.
Oh,
So it'll have Sharice McAdoo talks about who she is, where purpose meets power branding, or Dr. Piru, his particular book. And so all of these things, or Hester Wheeler, so they're working as one sheets within the magazine. So these go out every single month, online and physically, to media, to meeting planners, to those who are just looking for speakers, or people who are just interested in, like, maybe just buying your products, because a lot of speakers have other type of businesses as well. So we have this so that they're on the website. Their speaker reel is embedded in the magazine online, but it's also at the bottom. They have this sheet, and their speaker reels also on the website as well. So it acts
wow.
like a speaker's bureau for them, because now when people Google them, it'll pop up that they've been in Speakers Magazine. So a person says, "Oh, I'm a speaker," and they Google their name, and this comes up as their credibility booster. And that was really like the main thing. I wanted this to be that particular publication and promotion for the African American speaker. I wanted to amplify Black voices. I've been unapologetic about that from day one. It was before
Yes.
2020.
Yes.
So I've always been unapologetic about that, and really wanting to make sure that they are showing up and being seen as the experts that they are. So JJ Conway, she's talking about her Juneteenth conference. It's on the back of the May issue. She'll be the front of the July issue, of the June issue, I'm sorry, for Juneteenth. And George Frazier was our very first cover. We call him Uncle George Frazier, power networking guy. So it was really, I saw so many conferences, and we wanted to bring them all together to promote their conferences. So we promote them the month before, when they're on the cover. And then also too, it's there forever. So the website, the internet lives forever. So they're always there. So when people Google their name, their websites are there, their speaker reel is there. It shows pictures of their events. And that was really like the main thing, because I felt like mainstream media was not giving our speakers the type of shine that I knew that we had. And we're so talented. We are very, very talented. I don't know if you know Dr. DeForest Soares. He runs a Fin Fest every year. It's kind of like a financial conference that he does for African Americans. He does that in New Jersey, but he talks about health and wealth and insurance and all those type of things that keeps us wealthy. So that's within our community. So I wanted to be different from a newspaper where it tells
Mm-hmm.
stories, where this is more like a catalog of speakers with their mini one sheets on the inside and talking
Love
about their events, and then really showing their speaker one sheets and all of that. So it comes out every single month. And we have a podcast that goes with it, because speakers, you need to hear them speak in real time. So besides the speaker reel, we have the podcast as well. So it gets better. And I always tell people this, with PR and marketing, you just have to be consistent, and go back and look at it, critique yourself, and then just
Mhm.
improve, course correct as you go. But
Wow.
speakersmagazine.com is where people go to subscribe to it for free online.
Wow, that's awesome.
Can you give, just for like 30 seconds, top things that someone that wants to become a speaker, they're new to speaking, that they need to do? If we know something, putting yourself out there, like the Speakers Magazine,
Yes.
without a
Yeah.
doubt,
So one of the
for
main
an investment.
Yeah, one of the main things I would say is study the industry. So Speakers Magazine, study the industry, study what other speakers are doing, but buy your name and get a website. And that can even be your own, for just the speaking. So on that website is your speaker reel, is your speaker one sheet. The one sheet includes obviously a great bio, photo,
Mhm.
and your speaking topics and
Mhm.
testimonials if you have them. So those are like the main things. And then have an intake form so that you have a process. And on that intake form, you would like to say, what is your honorarium, that you would pay? Those are
Mhm.
the things. So that way you're not just getting a whole lot of people like, oh, I want you to speak for free. And if they
Right.
don't have it, but at least you know that they have a budget, or like, what is your budget for your speaker, or what is the honorarium that you're planning to pay, or whatever, that kind of thing. So you
That's
want to make
important.
sure that all of that is on the website. And then the
Mhm.
other thing that you need is really those credibility markers, what I call the press clippings, the podcast, the radio, the TV, newspaper, magazines. Those are credibility markers, because if they're looking the difference between speaker A and speaker B, if speaker A doesn't have any media coverage and speaker B does, and you're about the same, they're going to go with speaker B, because they know that they have a wider audience. And so
Mhm.
everybody wants to bring in a speaker that people have
Bring in
heard of.
people.
That people have heard of. So
Right.
that's going to be your mark.
That's on point. I love it.
What's one PR myth you love to bust today, Dr. Pam?
The one PR myth I'd love to bust is that people think it's a lot easier than it really is. So that's why
Wow.
I have my coaching program, Ready, Set, Go, Speak. And they don't realize that it takes more than just one phone call or one contact to call and say, hey, I like to be featured. They may have to call that particular person 7 to 8 times in order for them to get a yes, or even to get paid attention to. They may have to DM them, they may have to email them, they may have to text them, they may have to follow them on Instagram. They may have, it's going to be a creative way to get their attention. It may be 6 months before you really get a return call.
Right.
And people are
Right.
like, oh my God, but can I just hire you to do it? Yeah, then it won't be much. Okay, so yeah. That's the myth I really want, because it does look easy. To understand that, yeah, PR is available and it's free, but it does take time. So either you're spending money or you're going to invest the time, but it does cost something. You have to invest in something.
Wow. Well, you heard it directly from Dr. Pam Perry, the PR guru, the founder of SpeakersMagazine.com.
Dr. Pam Perry, thank you so much for joining us on Wealthy Sistas Radio. Thank you for listening to Wealthy Sistas Radio. This show is produced by Wealthy Sistas Media Group, where we believe meaningful work is built with intention through clarity, alignment, and thoughtful design. If today's conversation resonated and you'd like to learn more about how we work, details are available on our website. Until next time, thank you for listening.
The opinions of our guests do not necessarily reflect the opinions of our hosts, staff, or partners of Wealthy Sistas Radio.